Hey guys, I'm YAX and I'm obsessed with racing. But racing in real life costs way too much, so instead I went the sim racing route, if you couldn't tell already. And at the moment, the only sim racing platform at my disposal is Project Cars 2, and coincidentally, AOR runs a league for my favorite open wheel car in the game, the 2015 Formula Renault 3.5. Unfortunately, I have an Xbox, which means I have to pay to play with other people online, and because I'm very far from even being monetized on YouTube, I need to practice offline. And the best way to practice for a league race offline and build general racecraft is a last first race at maximum AI difficulty. As we go green in Spa. We get a pretty average start off the grid, but as we get up the gears and the tires start to grip up, we have so much speed on the AI, we have to go down the middle of the grid of cars, and I lock up into the back of the guy in front, but it was slow and I made minimal contact, so we continue having made up a good amount of positions already. Approaching a rouge, we go into the grass to try and maintain the speed we have on the AI as much as possible, and into the fearsome corner we take a relatively conservative approach. But nonetheless, the conservative run up the hill in a straight line up Radion meant that I had incredible overspeed on the AI, who pretty much brake checked each other at the top of the hill. The AI at this point are mobile chicanes, and we have to take evasive action on the grass to avoid running into the back of some of them. And we're 3 wide into the braking zone. I go deep in the hope that we can force the guys on my left out wide, and we do just that, and we're on to second place here in one sector. But now that the start is done, I'm completely exposed and have to show my true pace in order to catch up to the leader, who is nearly 3 seconds ahead of me. This is where we have the bulk of the practice, forcing myself to be consistent and consistently quicker than the leader. And the consistency we build as we go for the move down the inside for the lead at the bus stop chicane, albeit with getting a double lockup and going out. But we make the move nonetheless to secure P1 in an otherwise quite uneventful race. Into the next race, we're at the Nurburgring as we get a wheel spin heavy but good jump off the lights to get us an advantage over the AI on the long run into turn 1. Unlike last race, we don't actually bump into the back of anyone into turn 1, but on exit we do make contact with an AI who tried to cut me off, and he pulled a Romain Grosjean, but pulling me along with him in as well, and we lose positions into turn 2. We look for the move around the outside of turn 3, but in the end make turn 4, 2 for 1, getting 8th place as well. But as we go in for a conservative braking zone into turn 5, the guy I just overtook tries to send it down my inside, but I was closing the door, leading to massive contact. Good thing it wasn't as bad as earlier, as we hold position, but we're now much further away from 7th place. I try to make the move down the inside of the hairpin, but we're just too far away. Fast forwarding to the end of the lap into the closing chicane, we go down the inside of not one but 2 cars, but we go too wide and have to give back the position to one of the cars, but the move nonetheless resulted in a net position gain of 1 place into 7th. Unfortunately, that slow final chicane resulted in me losing contact with the front runners, and I don't have too much pace at the Nurburgring otherwise, so I was pretty average on dry pace. However, as you just heard on the radio from my race engineer, the rain is coming, and by lap 5 it's raining heavily enough that we have to cut the final chicane, and we're in at the end of the next lap for wets, hoping that the rain comes down harder and we can undercut the front runners. We obviously come out in P20 and 44 seconds behind the leaders, but now it's time to push like never before, and we hope we have the pace in the wet. At some points in this transition period, we overdrove the car, like this time into the gravel, but nonetheless we recompose, and just after that one lap of undercut, we're 27 seconds behind the leaders who are still on slicks. Even still, we'll have to make some overtakes on the guys who have track position over me and are on wets as well, as we aggressively hold a line into the braking zone of the chicane. Also, I don't know if this is a thing or not, but the AI don't seem to be using DRS on the straights in the wet, which is something that I'm doing, and it's allowing me to have much more speed on the straights. Regardless, into turn 1 on the following lap, we're up into P2 after undercutting the leaders by over 3 laps. Tire wear shouldn't really be a factor, mostly because the tire wears less in low friction situations like these. We catch up to the leader by the end of the lap, although I capitalize on both slipstream and DRS on the back straight, but he defends well into the final chicane, and the final long right-hander is a single file affair. As we get onto the main straight, we run a bit wide on the exit curb. Unfazed, we get the rich fuel mix running, DRS and slipstream on the long run into turn 1, carrying the overspeed into the braking zone. Initially we have to brake earlier due to the heavily wet nature of the inside line compared to the dry line made for the wide line into turn 1. However, we look into the mirrors, he looks for the switchback but runs into my right rear wheel, and we fend him off to maintain P1 for the second time in succession. Can we go for the hat trick as the lights are out, and away we go here at Laguna Seca. We get a really good start off the lights, although wheel spin is forcing me to chop at the wheel as we serve to avoid the guy directly in front. This is going to be a completely dry race as we thread the needle through those two and switch it to the inside line into turn 1. We send it down the inside of 3 cars to ultimately exit turn 2 in P7. As we approach turn 3, we look for the move on the inside and make it 3 wide into turn 3, forcing the 2 I overtook out wide. Into sector 2, we get a great run into the banked left corner and we go for a move around the outside of my teammate, squeezing him to the inside of the track and unintentionally making him half spin in the middle of the corner. We march forward though as we decide to hold back on making a move for the podium in the fast left corner. Up the hill we go, closing in on P3 as we look for and commit to the line down the inside into the infamous corkscrew chicane. The following left-hander is a corner where the AI have an upper hand on me, so we don't close in on P1 and 2 through there. But their fighting through the penultimate corner allows me to catch up as we have the overspeed on both of them as we go down the inside of the final corner, unfortunately not being able to complete the elusive last of first challenge in 1 lap, but we are in P2 by the end of the lap. Similar to the first race in Spa. We fast forward to the end of sector 2 where we make up a nearly 1 second gap to close up to the leader as we go up the hill into the bumpy approach into the corkscrew chicane. We go down the inside for the lead of the race. We're side by side through the chicane itself, but the wider outside line on exit allowed me to get a better launch out of it. This race was otherwise quite quotidian because we finished P1 in the end, doing the last first challenge 3 times in a row with 120% AI, making at least 57 overtakes in less than 7 minutes. If you like this video, be sure to give this video a like. If you didn't, let me know why in the comment section down below. And if you want to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe. And as always, I'll see you whenever I'll see you. Peace!